Good evening, everyone. In this video, you will learn how to code select statements that retrieve data from a single table. You should realize, though, that the skills we are about to cover are most essential to any SQL select statement you code, no matter how many different tables it works with, no matter how complex the retrieval is. So you'll want to be sure you have a good understanding of what is explained in this video before you move on to the next one. In the description below, I have included a link to the SQL scripts needed to follow along with me during this series. There are 3 scripts to create the AP, examples, and product order databases, which are the same scripts I have open in my 3 tabs here. If you didn't notice, I have also changed my color theme here in SQL Server Management Studio to a light color. To do that, you click on the Tools button here at the top, and you go into Options, and here in Environment in General, you change the color theme to light from blue and you click OK. So the first thing we're going to want to do is execute our 3 scripts here that we have in our tabs to create our databases so that way we can retrieve data from these tables. So with the first one here we have create_ap.sql. .sql is the file extension for SQL scripts, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to execute that one. By executing that, here in the bottom you should see a message with rows that were affected. You see 8 rows affected here, 75 affected here, 118 here, 114, 5, and 122 here. So we just created a database, and for each one of these messages, these are the tables that we created in that database and how many rows we inserted into those tables that fall in the database. So now we're going to run the next one, create examples. You can see here, this is the result set here. And then I'm going to create the next one, create product orders. I'm going to execute this one. And you see this one has also created some tables with some rows as well. Now, to view these, over here on the left-hand side under our localhost server, I'm going to expand the database option here, and I'm going to despan this here, and you can see these are the databases that we just created. We have our AP database here, our examples database here, as well as our product orders database. So first, let's go ahead and let's close out these 3 scripts that we've already ran to create our databases and our tables. And then we're going to want to click on the new query button here at the top, and that's going to open up a new window here. Now over here in the top left hand corner, one thing you should take a note of is the database in which you are going to be running your first SQL code in here. And if you see at the top left hand corner, we have product orders. So anything we type in this window here, we are going to be targeted towards the product orders database. And so we're just going to change that right now. We're going to go over to AP, and now any SQL code that we write here in this screen will be targeted towards the AP database. So there are 4 clauses that exist with the select statement. The select statement describes the columns that will be included in the result set, and the from names the table from which query will retrieve the data from, and the where clause is used to filter the rows in the base table so that only those rows that match the search condition are included in the result set. So if you admit the where clause in your SQL code, then all of the rows in the base table will automatically be included. And then after the where clause, there is the order by clause. And the order by clause basically specifies how you want the rows in the result set to be sorted. You know, sometimes some people want them sorted from A to Z or sorted from Z to A. Or some people want, you know, the oldest number to show on the report before the newest number. So the order by clause comes in handy in those situations. Now it is also important to note that the from, where, and order by clauses aren't the only clauses of the select statement. And as we go through this series of videos, we will be covering all the other clauses later on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to zoom in a little bit here so that way we can see our text a little bit more. And now I'm going to show you some select statement examples. So this first select statement retrieves all of the data from the invoices table. And to do that, first I'm going to do select, and then I'm going to do star. And this asterisk star means I'm selecting all of the data from the invoices table. And then I'm going to put a semicolon at the end. That means that my statement has ended, and I'm going to execute And if you see here by me executing here, I have all of the data that exists in the invoices table. Now the next select statement that I'm going to write here is a statement that is going to retrieve 3 columns from each row, sorted in descending sequence by the invoice total. So I'm going to go invoice, select invoice number, the invoice date, the invoice total, and that's going to come from invoices. And then I'm going to order this by invoice total. Now if I go ahead and run this, I'll highlight it and I'll click the execute button. And the reason why I'm highlighting it is because if I don't highlight it, you see there's 2 separate select statements here with a semicolon at the end that ends each statement. So if I don't highlight it and I just go ahead and I click execute, it's going to run both of them and show you a result set for both of them here at the bottom. And I only want to see a result set for one at this moment. So I'm just going to highlight the one that I want and I'm going to click execute and I only get a result set for one. Now you see here what we have singled out is 3 columns, the invoice number, the invoice date, and the invoice total from the invoices table, and we ordered by the invoice total. So it's going to give us the minimum invoice total first, and since we ordered by the invoice total, everything else on the left hand side was automatically ordered based on the total of ordered by. If I go back up here and I run our select star from invoices, you see this gives us the full table that does not have the invoice number, the invoice date, and the invoice total columns singled out. And so that's basically what we were doing here when we were saying select invoice number, invoice date, and invoice total from invoices, is we were singling out these 3 columns and we were saying these are the only 3 columns from this table that we want to see, but give me all the data from it because we do not have a where clause. Now another thing we have to take a note of here is when we run this second query here, the invoice total is automatically in the ascending order, but we didn't specify which direction we wanted it to go in. We didn't specify ascending or descending here in our order by clause, and that is because by default the order by clause will automatically order your rows in the ascending order if you don't choose to do it in the opposite direction. So if we wanted to go into the descending order, we could do order by invoice total space the descending order and then execute our query again, and you see the invoice total is now in the descending order. So that's one thing that we want to make sure we take a note of, and when we're writing our queries, that when we do the order by clause, we need to know that it's going to do ascending order automatically by default. So now I want to show you guys how it looks to write this query and include a where clause in it. Now remember, the where clause is used to filter the rows in the table so that only those rows that match the search condition in the where clause are included in our result set. So right now we have the select invoice number, invoice date, invoice total from invoices, and we're ordered by invoice total. Well, I want to include a where clause in here, so I'm just going to include a space here and I'm going to say where. Let's say where invoice number, let's set it equal to 10843. Now, before I run this query, I want you to take a look down here at number 9. The number 9 here is 10843 invoice number. So, since in this query we are selecting 3 columns, the invoice number, the invoice date, and the invoice total from our invoices table, and we included a where clause searching for the invoice number of 10843, we're only going to get back data where the invoice number is equal to 10843 from the invoices table when we run this query. So I'm going to highlight my query, hit the execute button, and you see here now we have the invoice number of 10843, the invoice date, and our invoice total here. So this is how the where clause works. The where clause is used to filter out the data and break things down even more, so that way you can get a single record. And there's a lot more things you can do with this where clause, but it is not going to be covered here in this video. In our next video, we are going to look at a few more ways the where clause can be used to filter data from tables, and we are going to look at how to retrieve data from 2 or more tables. So thank you for watching. If you're interested in the next video, head on over to database-tutorials.com. And please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and see you next time.